everyone. This is Dee Marley with the History Bards podcast, and today we have the great privilege of welcoming historical fiction author Elyse Hoffman to the show today. Hi, Elyse. How are you doing today?
Doing pretty good.
Good. And to introduce Elyse to our listeners, she is an award-winning author who strives to tell historical tales with new twists. She loves to meld World War II and Jewish history with fantasy and folklore, and she has written 6 works of Holocaust historical fiction, the Barracks of the Holocaust 5-book series, and the Book of Uriel. Elyse's books are the way to go if you love history and want to read some unique stories. So to start off with, since this interview is about you, we would love for you to tell us more about your journey as a writer and why you got into writing historical fiction.
Sure. Well, I'm kind of a young author, so this was a bit of a more recent thing, but I've been writing historical fiction since I was like 14-ish.
Yeah.
Basically, I mean, I was writing stuff before then, but what made me get into historical fiction was basically getting into history when I was a teenager. And I got more into World War II history specifically because for 2 reasons, because my dad showed me the movie Schindler's List, and because I was bullied when I was in my teenage years for being Jewish, and that sort of made me like interested in, and I kind of was thinking, well, like, kind of curious about the why, because like a lot of the bullying was based off of Hitler, yada yada yada. And I had kind of heard about World War II stuff, but I didn't quite understand it, so I sort of fell down a rabbit hole, if you will.
Yeah, of course you did. Yeah. Well, that's really, really interesting. So we would love to know how that interest in World War II and historical fiction, how that led into you writing your books, and if you could tell the listeners a little bit more about your books and your series.
Sure. So I have quite a few books out right now because I do write a lot. I have the Barracks series that you mentioned, Uriel, and the book that just came out is the sort of start of a new series that I'm writing. It's called The Vengeance of Samuel Val, and it's going to be kind of a series that looks at different perspectives of World War II. But since I have that, my niche is sort of historical fantasy. It has like a fantasy element. Pretty much all my books are World War II with some kind of historical fantasy bent. Okay. So Samuel Val is sort of going to lead into an examination of like the Jewish view of the afterlife. So that's sort of what I'm writing right now is this story that's sort of a combination. I'd almost say like a combination of like a normal historical fiction thing and like a Dante's Inferno kind of thing.
Okay. Well, hey, that's really interesting. So that kind of gives our listeners a little tidbit of what they are to expect whenever they pick up your books. And I have to say that I really love the cover for the Samuel Val. It's very it really, really pulls you in.
I did not make it myself. that was my cover.
It was really good. I really like it. It's very intriguing. So let me ask you this. So you kind of told us a little bit about your interest in this era. Is there can you tell us a little bit about the history about why this drew it to you, why this era drew you to write about it?
Sort of based off of when experiencing like kind of not obviously the same level of anti-Semitism, but sort of like the remnants of it, if you will, sort of like leads you to sort of want to examine like how those thought patterns can take hold in normal average people and the consequences of it. It's sort of like it would start at sort of the level that I experienced when I was a little kid, and then how could that possibly blossom, or not blossom's probably a terrible word for it, but like grow into something really extreme.
Right, I understand. So you said that you have a Jewish background. So were you able to like delve into like maybe your family's history with the Holocaust?
My family actually doesn't really have a history with the Holocaust. As
Oh,
far as I
okay.
know, because my family are American Jews.
Okay.
So that's what's sort of interesting. I think I know that I have some very distant relatives that died in the Holocaust because
Okay.
I ended up looking into it. Curiously, I mean, I'm from a Jewish family, but my family was I'm the most Jewish member of my immediate family. My dad is not very Jewish at all. I became more Jewish when I got more interested in World War II stuff and when I was bullied as a kid.
Right.
So it was sort of like almost a response to it that
Okay.
made me more interested in both the World War II and in like my own you know culture because before then I was basically like an 8-day Jew. I mean, I was Jewish in that I was the one kid in the class that did Hanukkah. That's how I was
Okay.
Jewish.
Okay. That makes sense. Well, let me ask you this. So, have you ever had the opportunity to travel to any of the places that you talk about in your books, or maybe the Holocaust Museum?
Yeah, yeah. I'm in Washington D.C., so I'm right next to the
Okay.
United States Holocaust Museum, which is
Right.
excellent museum, fantastic. I very recommend. Having been to a lot of Holocaust museums, I think it's the best one so far. But yes,
Okay.
I've traveled to a lot of countries. That's like to Germany, Poland. I mean, I've been to a lot of places. I just came back. I came back recently from a trip to Latvia for where I was
Oh,
researching something for a book. I was visiting the Riga ghetto. So I try to when I have a break and save up, I try to go travel to the places that are in my book so I can get a feel for the culture in the area.
yeah. And is that something that you really recommend for readers to do or for writers to do?
I think so if you can. I think there's a lot you can glean from books. There is just something about being in the country and near the country. I was just at Auschwitz recently and like, you
Oh,
can't it's a very different feeling being in the
yes.
area as opposed to just reading about it. So I think
Yes.
especially if you're writing from that rather sensitive historical period, it's if you can, it's a benefit to be able to.
Yes, I absolutely agree. I think traveling to a spot really helps you to develop, descriptions in a way that you probably wouldn't have been able to do before.
Also, Poland is beautiful. More people should visit there.
Yeah.
Latvia is very cool too. I would recommend it. It's not people were surprised when we were over there. They were like,
Right.
"What's an American doing over there?"
Yeah. I
We
have
don't get a ton
cousins.
of.
I have
Oh,
cousins that live in Poland, so and I've seen pictures. It's stunning. It's very beautiful. And a lot of people, I guess, don't know that.
oh no, it's gorgeous. No,
Yeah.
I think I don't know if I should recommend it though because I was in Prague before it became a giant tourist hotspot, and now apparently my friend who lives over there, she's like, "What have you Americans done? It's
Oh
crowded."
no. Oh no. Well,
Here's
I mean, we do have history here in the States, but not like Europe.
She's like, it was supposed to be a hidden gem.
Yeah,
It's not hidden anymore.
right. So, can you tell us a little bit more about the research that you had to do for this? And maybe if you even found something obscure that you'd like to share with us.
Um,
Oh, yeah.
I, I don't know if people can see, but I have a very big thing of books behind me.
Yes, they
It's
can.
mostly of something obscure. I I think a lot that's too obscure. I do just read like a lot for Vengeance specifically. It was a lot of reading about events on the Eastern Front, which can be unique, kind of uniquely sad and brutal. But
Yes.
one of the bigger things that I was researching for Vengeance was the Einsatzgruppen, which not a lot of people know about in terms of Holocaust history, because when people think Holocaust, they usually think concentration camps. But
Right.
like about 1.5 million of the 6 million people who died in the Holocaust were killed by what's called the Einsatzgruppen, which is the mobile killing units. So
Right.
these were the units that were sent eastward after the invasion of Poland and then subsequently Operation Barbarossa when the Soviet Union was invaded.
Hmm.
Because before the Holocaust was sort of laid out into a like efficient, horrible system, it was sort of like most genocides in that it was more sloppy and it was done village by village just gathering people up and killing them in terms of entire villages, which is like the opening scene of Vengeance, is like the main character surviving a Einsatzgruppen attack on his village.
Oh,
And
wow.
the attack that he survives is based off of a couple of different incidents that occurred in Eastern Europe. And the sort of an interesting part for me was researching not just the events of the Einsatzgruppen and the people who were involved in it, but the way that it led into the Holocaust as we sort of know it. Because one of the reasons that the Holocaust sort of became this industrialized, mechanized with the gas chamber system and all that stuff was because Heinrich Himmler, who was the chief of the SS, the people who committed the Holocaust, he was noticing that a lot of his own men were having psychological issues because when they because you know even though they had been brainwashed into thinking that Jews were less than human, you know, they're still killing women and children, and it was traumatic for the soldiers. So Heinrich Himmler was not concerned about being humane to the Jews, but he was concerned about being, you know, quote unquote humane to his own soldiers. So the system that he and one of his associates, Reinhard Heydrich, came up with was sort of based on this concept that we want our own men to not have to suffer for this good cause, quote unquote. So that psychology was sort of interesting to look into.
Yeah, and it's so traumatizing. I'm sure, like, even as you were researching this and writing it, that some of this was extremely difficult. So can you tell us a little bit about that? What did you find that was like so difficult about writing about this story?
Just in general, my dad says that at this point I'm kind of a surgeon when it comes to historical fiction, where it's difficult, but I'm sort of able to like read it without, because if I broke down and cried every single time I read something bad or brutal about the Holocaust, I would not be able to do this. So you sort of have to like approach it like a historian, where you it's empathy, but you don't allow yourself to like get really crushed by it, which is difficult. Takes a long time of reading to do. But plus I also have my dog and cat, which makes things better.
Oh, well, that's good.
They give comfort always... when I get particularly depressed. Then
that's always good to have your little writing companions next to you. Yeah. So do you have a favorite line or passage from your own book that you'd like to share?
No, I love the whole thing. You should read the entire thing.
Okay, well, we don't have that long. So we'll just tell everybody this is an excellent book. Go out and you definitely need to read it. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm a bad judge of my own writing. After I send it off the air, I'm like, I hate it. But I'll still
I think we've all been there.
I don't hate it. That was a joke.
Yeah. I know. So let me ask you this. So since you're a young writer, what advice would you give, or advice that you even received yourself, that you would give to other young writers starting out either in historical fiction or just as a writer?
Just in general, I'd say, because I have a lot of friends who try to get into writing and try to finish a book. And I think that the number one thing is to just write. I know that's advice that you hear all the time, but it really is true. Like my drafts look like total disasters. I mean, I will start writing and skip entire scenes and skip entire lines of dialogue and have like, you know, insert this scene here. Can't be bothered to write this right now. And you know, the drafts look like disasters, but it helps when you have like when you can look back and you kind of have the skeleton of a finished product. It like motivates you to like push through to the end, which is just how I've kind of always written. I've kind of just I don't seat of my pants it, but I like outline and then just write through as much as I can until like I basically got the beginning, middle, and end written. My friends, I love them dearly, but they never get past chapter 3. Who are in my age group. I think I called the my friends in creative writing class the chapter 3 group, because their first 3 chapters would be so beautiful and wonderful and perfectly edited, and they would just get so exhausted at the end. They would be so tired they just couldn't continue. So I I think it's better to have a sloppy full draft than a beautiful first 3 chapters would be my thing.
I think that's an excellent advice. I really like that. I like how you described it as a skeleton, and I think that's an excellent way to approach writing a book. So that's great advice. So, but we'd love to hear more about your early days of writing. Is there anything that really impacted your life that helped you motivate you to set you on the path of becoming a writer?
Um, I don't know. Sorry, coughing up a storm
Okay.
here. I've always been writing. I mean, when I was a little kid, again, before I was writing historical fiction, I think this sort of goes into the historical fantasy thing. I would write little fantasy, superhero or fantasy stories. I was into Harry Potter and all that stuff when I was a little kid. And my mom is big into journaling, so she has just journals sitting all over the house, lots of notebooks and stuff like that. So if I asked for a notebook, she would give me one, and I would just kind of fill out the entire thing with little stories, and that's just I was just writing with pencil and paper. So I think I still have some of those sitting in closets somewhere, just little fantasy cute childhood stuff. So I've just kind of always been writing since I was very little.
Oh, that's really cool. Has there ever been anything that you've read that has really impacted you?
In terms of books, I love The Book Thief. The Book Thief's probably my favorite book. I'm sure a lot of people, if they hear World War II, kind of with the mix of fantasy, they'll think The Book Thief. So Book Thief, highly recommended.
Yeah,
definitely one of my favorite books.
Yes, us too. We really like that one as well. So let me ask you this. In summing up all of this, is there a particular favorite quote or saying that you like to live by as a writer or as a person? This kind of tells the readers and the audience a little bit more about you as a person.
There's a quote which I am trying to pull up right at the second, which I have on my Goodreads page. That's something to the effect of that if you should create the here. Hang on. Never mind. Here it is. It's by Toni Morrison. If there's a book you want to read but hasn't been written yet, then you have to write it. That's sort of what I like to think, because I kind of write within a very a particular niche.
Right.
So, which some people might be into, some people might not be. But it's kind of I sort of write what I really would like to read. That's sort of my thought pattern as a writer.
Yeah. We love that. I love that quote as well. I've shared that meme I don't know how many times. So let me ask you, so you said that this book just came out about the Samuel Val. So what are you working on now, or do you have any events or book signings that we should know about?
I have another book coming out in November.
Okay.
Which is Black Box 1, and then another book coming out in April, which is Adiel and the Fear. I have a bit of a rapid release schedule going on. Right now, I'm just trying to finish the main series. That's sort of my main focus right now. Mm-hmm. And I think, but I always respond to Facebook comments, and if you shoot me Facebook or Goodreads comments, I'll almost certainly notice it and respond after I get my nose out of my keyboard.
Right. Well, Elyse, we really appreciate you being on the show today, and we look forward to your upcoming books, and we wish you much success on those. Thank you so much for being here. For all the fans listening in, you can learn more about Elyse and her books at ElyseHoffman.com, and we will post that link in the description so you can go there and find out more about her new releases and also the book that's out now. As always, we thank everyone for listening, and please don't forget to subscribe. This is DK Marley with Elyse Hoffman with the History Bards podcast. Keep making history and keep listening.